Hey, this is Toby, and in today's video we will continue to code our MetaTrader 5 Breakout EA. Let's go. Okay, so in the previous videos we already did the range calculation, start time, end time, and the close time. And in this video we want to code the range high and the range low. We want to code the breakout, and we want to close the positions on the red line. So if you have not seen the last videos, I will link them up here so you can go watch them. And now let's just jump to meta editor and we start coding. Okay, so let's just go to the onTick function here. And the first thing we want to do is to check if we are inside the range, and we save the high and the low of the range. So we just write a comment, range calculation. And here we check with a simple if statement if we are between the range start and the range end. And in this case, of course, we want to save the high and the low of the range, and also update the high and the low if we got a new high or a new low. So we just use the last tick time variable because this is our current time of the symbol. And if this is greater or equal to the range start time, and also the last tick time is less than the current range end time. So then we know we are inside the range, and we open the if body here. And now, first of all, we want to set our entry flag here. So we know we had a tick inside this range. So we just write a comment, set flag, and range flag entry is true. And now we check for a new high of the range. So if the last tick ask price is greater than the current range high, then we want to save the ask price inside the range high. So we do range high equals last tick ask. And then we also want to update our chart objects for the range high. So we just write or call the draw object function, which we already did last time here. And of course, later we need to add the line for the range high and low. So now we just copy this and do the same for the range low. So new low, and this time we use the bid price. And if the bid price, of course, is less than the range low, then the range low should be the current bid price. We also call the draw object function here. So this should be it for the range calculation. Now let's compile and see if we got any errors. Perfect. So now we go down to the draw object function and we draw the high and low level of the range. Okay, so here in the draw object function, we just can use the close time section, copy and paste. And of course, we change the comment to high. And now the object name is also range high. We only want to draw the range high if we have a range high. So we check for range high greater than 0. And then, of course, we change here the name to close, to high, also here, high of the range. And the close time, of course, was a vertical line, but for the high and the low, we need a horizontal line. But we don't use the H line here because we want the high and low of the range to start at the start time of the range and not go all the way to the left and to the right. So we use the object trend line for the high. And of course, for the time 1, we enter the range start time. For the price, it's of course the range high. And now for the second time, it's the range end. And for the second price, it's also the range high. So let's change here the tooltip also to range high. And of course, we don't need the time. So we just do string, or maybe we double to string function. So we don't get a very large number after the comma. So we enter the range, high. We just set the amount of numbers after the comma to the digits variable. And this, of course, depends on our symbol. Okay, so the color, let's just use the same color as our start and end time, color blue. The width of 2 is okay, and back is also okay. Now let's compile. Okay, we got an error somewhere, and here, of course, we need another bracket, because this bracket here is for the double-to-string function, and this one here for the object set string. So we compile again. Okay, so now let's just go to meta editor and check if we already get a line for the range high. So here, I just want to use every tick for this visual test. We start a visual test, and now let's see what happens if we enter the range. Yes, we can see we draw a new range. And of course, like here, we always get the highest price displayed with our trend line here. And we also get the tooltip range high. So now let's do the same for the range low. So we just copy this here, call it low, range low. And we only want to draw the range if the range low is less than the big number we entered here at the start. Maybe we increased that. So it's nearly 1 million. Just to make sure we got a new range low. And now we change the range name, or the name of the object, to range low. And here also low of the range. And now range start time is the same, range low. End time, and here also range low. And here double to string, range low. And color blue, back true. Okay, so this should be it. Now let's compile. And we start another visual test. And let's see. Yes, so here we got our range, our start time, our end time, and now we can see the range high is displayed here at the highest price, and the range low here at the lowest price of the range. Okay, and now what we want to do is to draw another line here from the range end to the close time. And this is where we then will take a breakout, and we will enter a position, a buy position here or a low position down here. Okay, so let's just copy this object here. And now we can do this in the same if body. So we just move this, we remove this if statement here. We again delete the object, and now we just add a space after the name, so we have a different name for this object. So we create the range high. It's also a trend line, of course, and it starts at the end time and goes until the close time of the range. And now the color is also blue. We can delete this line here because we want the line to be dotted and not a solid line. So we just copy this here and we change the property to style. And here we enter style dot. Okay, now let's compile and see. We have our range high here. And now we get the dotted line from the range end to the range close. And later here will be, for example, a buy trade. Okay, let's do the same for the low of the range here. So we just copy this section here from the high, add it here inside this if body, and we just change the name to low. And of course also low and a space after the low. Okay, now let's change the range high also to low here, here, and here. Color blue. Okay, so let's compile. We check with a visual test. And now we can see, so we have our range high, our range low, and now we check for a breakout to open a buy position. If we break above this line here, and if we break below this line here, we of course want to sell. Okay, so let's go to the code. And I just saw one thing we can change here in the draw object function. It's here the object delete line. We don't need it here. So we just do objects delete all here, and we just delete both range low object with this call here. So we also do the same for the high. We don't need the object delete in here. We can just use the objects delete all function. Okay, compile. And now we will code the breakout. So we open a trade if we break the high or low of the range. Okay, so let's just go to the onTick function here. And here inside the onTick function, at the end, we just add another comment, check for breakouts. And we will call a function, check breakouts. And now let's code this function. So we go maybe after the range calculation function. We just type void, the function name, check breakouts. We don't need any parameters for this function. So we just leave the brackets here empty. And now the first thing we want to check if we are after the range end, because breakouts of course only occur if we are after the range end. So we write a comment, check if we are the range end. So write a if statement. It's basically the same as we did here to check if we are inside the range. Now we check if we are after the range. So our last tick time has to be greater or equal to the range end time, and also the range end time should be greater than 0, because we just want to make sure that we have a range calculated. and also the range flag, our entry flag dot entry flag is true. So we know we had a tick inside the range, because here we set the range flag to true, and we just check if we really had a tick inside the range. So we open up the body here, and now here we can open our positions. So first of all, we want to check if we had a high breakout. Check for high breakout, and we just write another if statement. So if our range breakout flag for the high breakout is false, then of course we know we didn't already had a high breakout with this range, so this has to be false. And also the last tick, ask price, needs to be greater or equal to the range high. So in this case, we want to open a buy position. Okay, so now let's first of all set the range flag for the high breakout now to true. So we had a high breakout, and the next time we just make sure that we don't open another buy position. So we block the entry into this if statement if we set the flag here to true. Okay, now we can just open a position. And we do this with the cTrade class. So we just write trade dot position open down here. And now the symbol, and this is of course our current symbol, order type buy, volume. We have a input variable here for the volume, our lot size, and then of course the price. So the price of course is the current ask price for a buy position. A stop loss 0. We will add a stop loss later, but for now let's just use 0, so no stop loss and also no take profit. And a comment, we can just time range EA. Okay, so this is it for the buy position. Now we do the same for a sell break, for a low breakout. Check for low breakout, of course, the low flag. This time the bid price has to be below or equal to the range low. We set our range, our flag for the low breakout to true. We open a sell position here. So order type sell. And also here the bid price. No stop loss, no take profit, and we can use the same comment here. Okay, so let's clean this up a little bit. Now we compile. We have no errors, that's perfect. So now we can do a visual test and to see if we just open the positions. So and we can see we already did a few positions. Of course, we now don't close the positions at the red line. So this will be the next thing we want to do. Okay, now let's close the positions. So to do this, we go up to the onTick function again. And here, before we calculate a new range, we just write another comment, close positions, and we do a if statement. So if the last tick dot time is greater or equal to the range close time, then of course we want to close all open positions. Okay, so we write a if statement here, close positions, and we call the function here, and we just make sure if the function returns false, we also want to return here, and we don't want to calculate a new range, for example. Okay, let's compile. Of course, the compiler doesn't know the closed positions function yet, so that's what we code now. We go down after the check breakouts function maybe, but the order of the functions doesn't really matter, but we just do it here. We return a boolean, so bool close positions, and we just open the function here, and at the end we write return true. So if we closed all positions successfully, we will return true. Okay, so now first of all, let's compile, and there should be no errors now. Okay, so to close the positions, first of all, we want to get the total amount of open positions at the current time. So for this, we declare a variable total, and we use the positions total function here to get the number of open positions. And now to close the positions, we want to loop through all positions, and of course only want to close the positions with our magic number. So we write a for loop with a counter that starts at our total positions -1, because the first position in the position pool has the index 0. And we want to do this for loop until our counter here is equal to 0, and we want to count down. And that's very important that you count down if you want to close positions, because otherwise, if you count up, there's a possibility that you skip positions. And now what I like to do here is just to check if this variable here has changed, or if the total amount of position has changed during our for loop operation here. Because if you have multiple expert advisor, for example, and they open and close positions right at the same time, there's a possibility you skip positions. So positions total, and of course, if total is not equal to positions total, then we want just to start again at the top. So we set the total again to positions total. We also set our counter variable to total, and we write continue. So this way we just make sure that we don't skip any positions. And now let's select the position. So we write a variable of the type long, and we call it ticket. And now we use position get ticket, and we use our index here. And now, of course, maybe we write a comment, select position. Now we want to check if this operation here was successful. So if our ticket is less or equal 0, we return false. And maybe we also display a message for the user, failed to get position ticket. And of course, return false. Okay, now the next thing I like to do is to just select the position again. So if position select by ticket, and we use our ticket here, is false, we also write a message maybe for the user. Failed to select position by ticket. We also return false. And this just updates the position data. So we just make sure we get a fresh position data. Because now we want to check if the currently selected position has the same magic number as our input magic number here. Right here, the magic number from our expert advisor. Because of course we only want to close the positions that belong to our expert advisor and not manual trades or positions from other expert advisors. So now we declare a variable of type long. We just call it magic number. And now we get the magic number. So if position get integer, position magic here, if this call failed, then again we want to display a message for the user. Failed to get position magic number. We also want to return false in this case. Okay, now we can just check if the magic number is equal to our input magic number. And if that is the case, we know this position belongs to our EA and we need to close it. Okay, maybe we compile. We can see we got a lot of errors, but I think we are just missing here one bracket. Okay. Now we just close the position. Position close. And we just use our ticket. And now what we want to do is also to check the result of this operation, because we want to make sure we close the position correctly. So we just do a if statement. And we also use the cTrade class here to close the position. So trade.result red code, result red code. If this is not equal to trade, I think result or red code done. In this case, we also want to display a error message. So we just write print failed to close position. We want to display the result code. So trade dot result red code, and we also there's also a description of the error, so we also want to display trade dot result red code description here, and of course we want to return false. Okay, so now let's compile. We are missing a bracket here. Here after result red code, of course you need to open and close brackets, because this is a function. Okay, compile, and everything looks fine. Now we close our positions, and the next step, before we can check if this works, we need to make sure that we don't calculate a new range if we have a position open. So already last time we did a comment here, and now we will code this function to count open positions and only calculate a new range if we have no position open. Okay, so we will do this right now. And now we can undo this comment here, write a end, and also we need to add a bracket here. So we get 3 brackets here at the start. We can delete this bracket here because now we use this one for the if body. And if you compile, of course, the compiler does not know the count open position function yet. Okay, so maybe we call it count open positions and we just copy this. Now let's write the function. So we go down, maybe here. So the function, of course, returns a integer because here we check if the count is 0. So we return a integer, the name of the function, and just open the body of the function. Now let's just write return counter. And first of all, we declare a variable called counter and we set it to 0. So if we compile now, we have no errors. Okay, and now what we do is to again get the total amount of open positions at the current time. So int total positions total. And now again, we use a for loop to loop through all open positions. And we just set the index again to total -1. We want to do this for loop until we reach 0. And of course, we want to count down. Okay, so the first thing inside the for loop is again to get the ticket of the position. So we declare ticket position get ticket, our index here. And again, we check if the ticket is less or equal to 0. We want to display a message because then the position get ticket function was not successful. So print failed to get position ticket, and we return -1. Next, we want to update the position data. So we write position select by ticket. We use our ticket here. And if this is wrong or false, again, we want to display a message. Failed to select position by ticket. And again, we want to return -1. Okay, now the next thing is to again get the magic number of the position. So we just magic number, declare a variable here, and now we get the magic number of the position. So position get integer position magic and our variable. And of course, if this function is false, we also want to display a message to the user. So print failed to get position magic number. And we also want to return -1. Okay, so now we have the magic number of the position. And now we can do a simple if statement. So if the input magic number is the same as the magic number from the position. Then we just increase our counter by 1. So that way we just count our positions from our magic expert advisor. Okay, so this should be it. We compile. And now what we need to do in order to select the magic number from the position, we need to set our magic number to the ctrade class. So we do this in the onInit function here. Maybe right after we check for the inputs, we just do a comment, set magic number, so trade or trade object dot set expert magic number. And here, of course, we enter our input. So this way, whenever we open a trade, our input magic number is set to this position. And then if we count the positions here, or if we also close the positions, we can check for our magic number. Okay, let's compile. And now we can switch to the MetaTrader platform. We can start a visual test. Okay, so now we are close to the end of the range. And we see we already get a low breakout here. We opened a sell position. Of course, that was bad timing this time, but we just need to see if our close works as expected. And let's wait until we reach the close here. Okay, so our sell trade is still open, and now we reach our close time here. Let's see if we close the position. Right now. Right, okay. So we got a short trade here, and we closed it in the evening. And now we can see our next range is calculated. Now in the next part, we will add a stop loss and take profit input here, because for now we don't use a stop loss. And if you open a trade, you should always set a stop loss right from the start. So we will add a stop loss and take profit in the next part. And we will also add a day of week filter. So you can say you only want to do a range breakout on Monday and Wednesday, for example. And we can also add a breakout mode. So for now, we always go in both directions, a high breakout and also a low breakout, but we can add a breakout mode in the next part. So we, for example, do only one breakout per range. Okay, so if you liked this video, if it was helpful, you can leave a like. If you have a question or if you spot a mistake, maybe you can write a comment, or if you just have a question about automated trading or coding in general. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.